On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
We've got receivables coming in. Like
Yeah.
everything should be okay because I just haven't stopped working, haven't stopped work. I'm doing everything I can.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden the cash flow turned into a oh no,
No go.
oh no. And it was dark.
Yeah.
Like it really like how am I gonna do this? What are we gonna do?
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. We're back at you today. I got Steve Filyo here on the King stage. My brother, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm fired up. We were just off air talking elk hunting, one of my most favorite topics. You're not an elk hunter yet, but dude, the fact that you have thought about this and maybe want to be one day gets me fired up. I want to go right now, even though I just got back. Steve, what kind of business you have? Tell us why we're here.
All right. I run BlueEarth Deconstruction. It's a specialty, what most people think of as demo company outside of Chicago. We cover all of Chicagoland and all that. But what we do is we deconstruct homes being slated for being torn down or being remodeled. Think of it as all the demo that goes into every construction project, whether it's somebody redoing their kitchen or taking down an entire house. We get some crazy stuff like barns and whatnot. But all of that stuff is the number one contributor to landfill waste. It's roughly 1/3 of landfills is just coming from demolition. And when you think about it, that is most people, their home is their greatest investment in their entire life.
Yeah.
And when somebody either buys that or, moves in or whatever, all that stuff just goes to a landfill. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of, building materials that all this energy and cost has gone into. Well, what we do is that for every project, we reclaim and put into reuse everything that's reusable. Kitchen cabinets, counters, appliances, hardwood floors, trim, doors. We denail all the framing lumber so that in an industry that contributes to 1/3 of landfill waste, we're actually preventing, roughly 80 to 90% of that and diverting that from the landfill and getting it into reuse so somebody else can use it. And we support a lot of nonprofits through that so that we can help our clients save money. We do a lot for the environment, but we also support a lot of social programs that come out of the reuse and resale of those items through our nonprofit.
Wow. I feel like I'm in the presence of a real king. In all seriousness, like that, the mindset, the kingship mindset that we talk about so many times on the show and in our mastermind group is just this. It's not just you any longer. It's not just the warrior phase, right? Like you're taking care of way more. There's way more on your shoulders. But guys like you and I kind of like that. But you just like stood up there like a freaking president and gave the State of the Union, bro. Like you're doing like really big things. I love it.
If I had known what we were getting into, I probably wouldn't have had the stomach for it. It's one of those things where it was just, when people ask, I always say it's the idea whose time has come. Like I knew I wanted to start a business and I never thought that it would be as down as dirty as what I'm doing now.
Right.
But it was just once it clicked and it was like, well, wait a second. Like, why does all this stuff get thrown away? Like that seems silly. And it took us years to like pivot around and figure out the model to, with our partnerships and the way that we market and who our actually the clients are to really figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it was just like this is too good an idea to not do. And so it's kind of a reverse plan where I in hindsight, it's like, oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have.
Right.
But it was like, I don't know if it could have happened any other way than just diving into it. And we figured it out over a year.
Isn't that business though? Like in all seriousness, we always want to say, okay, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm going to be there. But we get started with 1, hopefully, right? Like everybody's listening, at least got started with step 1, or maybe they're on 2 or 3, but it's always this backtrack of like, oh geez, I didn't know I was going to need to learn that. And so you take a pit stop or you have to reverse or back up or whatever. And so I think what you just said there, even though you said it pretty, casually, is the story of every listener as well, which is like, it doesn't necessarily go in order. I wish that I had known other things first. Hindsight is 2020. What you know now is obviously allowing you to make decisions in the future better and better, which is what I want to get into. Before we jump into any of that, though, we've kind of just been rolling here, me and you. Why do you do this? Like, not this. Yeah, maybe the environment. Okay, fine. Okay, okay. For Steve, why are you still pushing? You're at a level of success where you probably don't have to, but you do anyway. Tell me why.
I think it kind of gets back to where we started. Well, sorry, two answers. So number one is I do, and it's just this work needs to be done. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
And for every project that, like, let's say we don't get, I mean, we compete a lot, and a lot of it comes down to cost. And like, we do things right, and there are a lot of guys that'll come in and not do things right. And to compete in that environment gets tough. If I don't do a job, then that's another dumpster, full of stuff that somebody in an impoverished neighborhood could upgrade their lifestyle. I mean, like, it seems like a wasted opportunity. And if we don't do it, then there's not a lot of people. There's maybe a couple dozen people in the whole country that do what we do at this level. We should be in every city doing this just because it helps everybody. So like, it's that thing where I can't get out, but at the same time, like, there have been, I mean, more times than I can count where it's like, you come home and it's like, I'm done. Like, I just want to sell the thing and be gone and start fresh. This is what I should have done. This is, but then I'm pot committed. Like, we're in, and we do this, and we've got a presence. And, luckily I have a lot of like good people around me who on those days, will let me vent a little bit and let me kind of
slap you back into place.
And I luckily I have a lot of good slappers around me. And then it's like, every time you get through that, like I just went through one of those where like something came up. I was like, good, like, I already have a full plate, and now this other thing popped up and I got to take care of it. And how are we going to do it all? And then after a week, it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad I hung up. Like, I could have dropped out, after our first couple of years and never done any of it, but just that, not giving up, burn the boat, go, like, get after it, figure out a way. And I don't know if there's any other way to do it.
Yeah.
Like what you were saying about it, you've got that step-by-step process. And I'm sure, like, it's so funny, like, the farther you get along, it's almost like every, like, cheapy quote. Like, you've got your posters back there, stay humble and hustle, excuses for the week. Like, it's amazing how, like, those simple, postcard things actually come out to be like the key.
Oh yeah.
To where
literally,
I'm sure you've seen it, that little diagram where it's like, this is what people think success looks like. And then this is what success really looks like.
Yeah. So true.
So true.
So true. The number one thing I heard you say, obviously outside of that last little comment, because you're just, I mean, so profound, so simple, so profound. What I heard you say about you was that you're an industry disruptor. And what I have found is that there's a few categories that almost every entrepreneur fits in. Some are legacy driven, some are industry disruptors, and that's what you are. Everything you just said is, I have to do this because somebody has to, like, it's not right if it doesn't get changed. And there's like this moral compass in you where you're like, no, I might be one man, but I'm going to freaking do what I can. And I just love that about industry disruptors. There's plenty listening, I'm sure, right now. I want to encourage them to pay close attention to your story here, because that's exactly what you are, man. And I love it. I love the energy behind it and what you're bringing. I want to know, what was the beginning like? Was entrepreneurship before this? Was this the first business? Like, how did it?
It's funny. I don't get a chance to read as many now because I'm busy doing, but man, I read everything. And I always knew that I wanted to do something different. Like, even in my 20s, like, there was a phase where I was paying the rent playing online poker. You know what? Which was good. I kind of like being, I bartended in the past. Like, I always just thought, I'm like, I just don't fit in. Like, I'm going to edit it. I'll tell you, I was the crappiest employee because I was always like, well, this is how we should do it. And this would make this better. And this, what are they doing? Now I have complete respect for every owner, boss, manager that I ever worked for. Because, like, oh my God, they, like, now I know why they did it that way. And that made a lot of sense. And it helps with humility.
Yeah.
But I remember reading a couple books. I was telling you before, 4-hour work week was a big one. And then I completely just threw that out the window because now it's like 400-hour work week. I got into an industry I can't automate just yet. Godin's linchpin was a real turning point for me where I was like, and as much as I do my best to be the exception to this with our employee, nobody's going to take care of you. Whether you're in a company or outside a company, you have to be indispensable.
Yeah.
And so I just knew, I got to go work for myself. And then it was figuring out what that was. And we had, my wife and I actually started the company together. We both own it. And we looked at a lot of different things until it was this idea that just, kind of got written down in a notebook one day and then just wouldn't go away. And then it was like, well, I guess this is the one, so we started out really just on a whim. I had construction is all through like my family, and I did, plenty of labor jobs coming up, but I didn't come from the construction industry. The last thing I did before this was wearing a suit and dealing with, headhunting and consulting and stuff like that.
Wow.
So this was a big shift. And I mean, we really just figured out, like, finally after, marketing, trying to figure out who our market was, finally we had one project. And I hired a group of guys to do that project. And while that's going on, I'm like, I better find the next one because, I committed to these guys to do it.
Yeah.
And it was everybody's first time doing it. We had made promises to clients that this is how this is going to go.
Right.
And that first one, I mean, you kind of, again, a little cheesy. There's some caveats to it, but like that fake it till you make it. Like at one point, somebody trusted me to do a job that they didn't, necessarily have all the background of what my experience was.
Right.
But I was like, well, this I have to do.
Yeah.
And then like halfway through that, we got another one lined up.
Yeah.
And then as we're getting close to the end of that, another opportunity came up. And it's like, we just bootstrapped and tried to keep expenses down, tried to learn lessons as cheaply as possible, just making payroll,
Right.
and then, then there'd be a gap. And it was like I'm not there's nobody, the phone's not ringing. Like everything we got was just hustle.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it was years of that. I mean, years of giving people discount. Hey, listen, I got a gap in my schedule. I will discount this. I just need to make enough money to pay the guy to keep them employed because like my goal is long-term sustainable. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
And so the choices that I made, wasn't always profit driven. I probably could have been more profitable, but it was, all right, let's do this for the long term. All right. If somebody comes in, they're going to be employed here. I need to make sure they got a job next.
Yeah.
And we just did it project by project and really just figured it out. I mean, you get a call. Hey, can you do this? Yeah, we can do that. All right. Let's do some research. Let's figure out what to do.
Yep.
And I had some help, in terms of, one or two people that, were willing to take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was just that. It's like, just scrape whatever information I could get me over this hump. But dude, it was survival. Sometimes it's still survival now.
Where every hustler is always in survival, especially if you know the trick to keep yourself in survival on purpose. Grant Cardone says you got to stay broke, right? And so the reality, what you just said, I want to just point this out for the listener because I think this is so important. You wanted to build something sustainable. I think there are so many times business owners today start a business and then they see someone on TikTok talking about 100K months or even 50K months. And you're like, oh, okay. And so then there's just this false expectation of time necessary of implementation, action, sales, finding people, or just all of it. And so there's just this, it doesn't mean that it can't happen fast or that I'm projecting, forever and ever for everybody. But the reality of what you just said is sustainable. And I've used that exact same word so many times when I've talked about my businesses as well as others that I've, consulted or people that are in the group. It's like, look, man, right now it sucks, or right now you're frustrated, or right now here's this issue. But long term, if you're going to be around in a year, 5 years, 50 years, if you're actually building something sustainable, a brand, you're going to help hundreds of thousands of clients over the years and your kids and your grandkids or whatever. This little bitty itty thing is just, it's a 2-week problem. It's a 2-year problem. Who cares? If we're talking sustainable, we're talking so much bigger than just 2 years, right? Would you like to add anything to that?
That really comes up, when just decision making. and sometimes it's a piece of equipment that goes down, and it's like, well, what are we going to do? That's really expensive. It's like, well, we have to do it right. Like our business is a lot of it is making promises and keeping them. When
Right.
somebody is remodeling their house or tearing out, like there's no like, oh, this got hard halfway through. Sorry, I gotta leave. You can't quit, and
Yeah.
you got deadlines and this and that, and every person you hire brings their good and their bad with them and the
Same.
surprises. But when you're, in your seat or in my seat, like at the end of the day, I'm the one that made the promise. So like, I'll be out there on a
Put my signature.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dropping brick wall because I already worked my guys as much as I want. And to be sustainable, I'm not going to burn them out, but the job needs to get done. So it's like, all right, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Our work is sustainable in terms of the environment, but it's that
Sure.
keeping the wheel going and keeping it steady, which is like my ongoing lesson that
Oh, yeah.
like that's what I'm working on.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned decision making, so let's jump into this. The meat and the potatoes of the show here, good and bad. I want to know a good decision that you made, ideally, pre first million in revenue, and you say this one decision, I can track a lot of good things that have come back from this one thing. What is that?
I don't want to be kind of just one note, but it's that kind of mindset thing that when things get hard, it's the deciding not to quit.
Yeah.
Like every one of those dark days or sleepless night or how's this going to work or spreadsheeting. Okay. Where's the money going to come from to get this done? I need these guys to pay their bills so that I can at least get here. And then think in a couple of weeks, I'll get there. And it's that waking up in the middle of the night, like all of that and how hard that can be and how hard that can be on a family. And at the same time, we started this we started like just about a year after my oldest daughter was born.
Wow.
And so then it's like, well, how do I also be a dad and make
A
sure
whole
that I
nother
run a
level.
successful business? And so like, I just realized like everybody's counting on me to do this thing. I was the one that said, this is the thing for our family.
Yeah.
And so it's that decision to like burn the boat and figure it out and just go. So I've made that decision a few times
Yeah.
and, I've made the decision to take calculated risk. There are certain things where it's like, okay, you do this. It's like, yeah, we can do that. That's bigger than anything we've done before. But I say yes to everything. And that's one of the things that I think keeps us going. It might be hard in the near term to keep twice as many promises as what we've done in the past.
Sure.
But, I try, when the schedule gets too full and we're, running around trying to get everything done. And I ask my guys like, hey, where are we at? They're like, hey, can you slow this thing down? I'm like, listen, we're in an industry that just, it can come and go and with the economy and with this and that and lumber prices when COVID hit and like we're in construction. When the sun's shining, we make hay. And when we keep these promises, these guys are going to call us next month. And dude, we're as fancy as we want to get and as sustainable and triple bottom line and all that stuff as we want to be. We're the first person in on a construction project and nobody cares about their demo guy. Like we've got to be that good. And then that way, like to stand out, when you're just kicking up dust and, doing what most people are thinking about getting rid of, that's where, we've actually got a presence and a brand and things that go along with it where it's like, okay, all of that sticking with, and it's simple, but it's just perseverance. You're just grinding it out and being able to find whatever that reserve tank is that I feel is the closest thing to a decision that has made a difference.
Yeah. The mindset that you've delivered really is incredible. I think it's something that the listeners heard before, but if they're paying attention and listening, they're hearing the heart or the presence of what it means in that moment to literally choose to keep going. Because we can talk about persistence. We can talk about the angle of just, you got to keep going. You just, when it sucks, you just got to keep going. Like people say that, but in the moment, the feeling of pulling yourself out is like none other. I would love to know if there's a flash of time and that goes across your face where you did that. Like, where this persistence that you're talking about, like, do you have a quick moment in time that you can describe where you had to pull yourself up and you were not wanting to get up?
Oh, okay. Yeah. There have been a few, but there was one where it was just dark. It was dark days. And like I said, like I committed myself to this. I committed my family to this.
Yeah.
I put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure that's done. I commit our employees to what we do. But there was a day where we were just running, and I'm overwhelmed, just running the day to day. I hired a couple people to help just try and keep track of things, but I'm still the delegation thing is still something that I'm working on and figuring out the right way to put the process in place. And then all of a sudden I'm going nonstop. We've got stuff happening, all that. And then I sit down and I neglected the accounting, something wasn't going to get done. And I look down, I'm like, oh crap, we're out of money.
Yeah.
We're out,
We were
bunch
out
of
probably
expenses.
2 weeks ago.
I should have figured it out. Like we've got receivables coming in, like everything should be okay. Cause I just haven't stopped working, I'm doing everything I can.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden the cash flow turned into oh no,
No go.
oh no. And it was dark.
Yeah.
It really how am I going to do this? What are we going to do? Get 3 a.m. going through spreadsheets. All right, I can get to next week. And then if this happens, I'll actually go and pick up the check from that person. Like I'm not even going to wait for it to be in the mail. And then I can get to next week. And then I can get to next week. And then that flat of, and I mean, it was a 6-month hole to dig out of, to get the money to come in and to keep track and to put the process in place, just to learn how to level up. Like we leveled up without, I leveled up.
You had to. You were either going to do it or die.
Yeah. Again, it goes back, if I had only known now or then what I know now, I would have done it this way, but I don't know. I wouldn't have learned that. So, it took a lot of, work and grinding it out and figuring out what to do, but it took a lot of self work where it's you're not going to get anything done if you just keep beating yourself up about it. What's done is done. And okay, here's actually something that I do that I don't really point out to a lot of people, that I think if anything's valuable, every time one of those dark days comes up, I ask myself, what if I had nothing to do with getting to this point? What if I bought this business today? What if I inherited, bought it, whatever? But what if I just took over today? I didn't have any baggage of what happened in the past. What would I do? And that's where I sat down. It's okay. So it doesn't matter what got us here. If I bought this business today and I was a smart entrepreneur, businessman, and I knew how to do this, what would I do? And it's
so good.
It wasn't, that's where it was oh, now I all those guys on my bookshelf. I've read all their books. So okay, what would he do in this situation? What would he do? And I think through it from a couple different perspectives of people much smarter than me. And I'm oh, well, if I did sell this today, somebody would buy it and would fix it. So I can't.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. You created your own little mastermind with the books. You eliminated your excuses and you went straight into action mode. It's so funny. That makes me think of, there's been several times, whether it's been groups that I've been a part of, or even guys, business owners in Gathering the Kings Mastermind. It's so funny how we'll have the same problem. Literally right now, today, I'm experiencing problem A. And I come to a scenario where you're talking about the same problem. And you're da-da-da-da-da-da about problem A. And I chime up, I pipe up. I'm like, hey, here's the solution. And it is the solution. And it's you walk away from that meeting, you're going, dang, I should probably do what I suggested that he do.
Yeah. Take your own medicine. Yeah.
Literally, which is like a hidden power of a group, where it's not even necessarily someone else's advice. It was your advice.
Yeah.
But it's just so much easy to give it, to then actually go implement the things that sometimes we know. I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars I've spent on business coaches that have, in those moments, told me things I already knew. I already knew it.
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't paying him to teach me that. I was paying him to remind me and then go, hey, knucklehead. Now is that moment where you actually go implement this thing that you know?
Oh, yeah. I want to take one step back because I think, and I can give some credit to our guys, but I was just thinking about that last question about what's one decision that you made that made a difference. And there's just a lot of little decisions, but one big one was a few years ago, we did an assessment and just looked at, because we were bootstrapping at the time and it's just keep costs as low as possible. And, our personnel plan was hire guys, at a low skill level, and manage and train and develop. One of our big priorities, which brings its own set of challenges, is that we want to be able to help at every place we can. And one of that comes down to hiring. And we work with a lot of job training programs, a lot of people that come in really bad places in Chicago that are trying to get out of that.
Yeah.
And we've dedicated ourselves to hiring from there, which, you know, is tough because they're learning a new skill set. They're
Right.
learning and really didn't have a whole lot of guidance.
Yeah.
And the challenges that some of our guys face are things that I couldn't even fathom, just outside of work. But as making that a part of it, you know, I realized after years of doing this that we had good people working for us.
Yeah.
And I'm running around trying to fill in the gaps of, you know, understanding that we're bringing somebody in that doesn't have a great skill level. And so a few years ago, we ran an analysis and said, okay, what if we raised our hiring pay, our pay for everybody, but also raised the expectation for earning that? And we attracted a new caliber. We developed a higher caliber of current employees. We were able to put leadership in place that was able to take some of the load off of me. And so that, I think, hiring better talent and, you know, in a conservative, you know, smart way, paying more has been one of the big things for us.
Yeah.
A few months ago when inflation hit, we just pulled everybody in and just said, hey, listen, we're doing a full-on review for everybody right now. Anything that you deserve, we're going to bump your pay up, but bare minimum, even if you've only been here for a month, you're getting a 10% raise right now just to deal with inflation. I can't promise anything, you know, if inflation continues the way that it's going, I can't promise anything.
Right.
But as of right now, I want, as the thing is going up, let's try and take care of this and get you guys in a good spot. And, you know, good people is a product of that. We've attracted a lot of, skilled tradesmen into our industry.
Yeah.
At the same time, like just taking care of and developing the loyalty within our team, like the guys that are the closest they've ever been with each other.
Yeah.
And we've got a level of the culture came up with it. And I think everybody knows we're all working together.
Yeah. I love that. It's a hot topic right now. I love what you've done there. Paying attention to the small things, which money is one of those things, not always associated just to money. And it sounds like you've done, a mixture of all of those, the heart things that bring a team together. So I appreciate that little plug. I want to flip the coin here real quick. I want you to tell me about a bad decision, something that you did, palm on the face, terrible moment.
Part of it is just taking your eye off the ball and letting, like kind of like what I was talking about before, letting busyness get in the way of taking care of everything.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for a decision that's like one of these things where it's like, oh, that was stupid,
Right.
My errors are more in allowing busyness to get in the way of just doing the boring stuff,
Sure.
If anything,
you as the owner, you particularly like for you getting in your personal way as like you should be owning, but you're busy. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, I know your concept of going from warrior to king. I'm probably in that
transition.
That being able to sit back and look at the 30,000 foot view, see what's going on, be able to strategize. Like I work long days and put hundreds of miles on my truck every week because we do projects. All over. We've got like to drive from one to the other. I'm probably an hour and a half spread in a lot of cases because we work all over the place and Chicago's big. So like there are days where I spend 8 hours literally not able to get to a computer, really hit email or do any of that.
Sure.
And by the time I get back, you get the few things that you can done. Well, if you string too many of those days together and make that okay, because at least I'm busy, I'm doing everything I can.
Exactly.
That's where that little trick has tripped me up. And I always go back to like the simple stuff that I learned 10 years ago. And like Tony Robbins has this concept of a wheel that you got to keep balanced. Like it's one of those things where you just got to remember every department in the business needs your attention. You can't just be putting out fires all the time.
Right.
And so that, I guess deciding not to decide, if everything's important and nothing is, letting myself fall into that is the trap that I think that's my biggest lesson that I keep apparently still needing to learn.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate the vulnerability. I relate to that in all seriousness because we're both in our own words we've mentioned that we're doers, and usually the doers are someone who's just like, okay, fine, just get out of the way, let me do it. Which is the trap that you're talking about. So we have to trap ourselves into a scenario where it's, hey, that needs to be done differently. Let me do some training or let me hire a key role. There's just different action steps that we need to take as opposed to just doing it. And so I love that you brought that up. I think that most of the people here today listening at six figures, it is their biggest thing that's keeping them from seven. That and just getting more clients, sales and marketing. It's the ability to just not be doing literally everything because you're only one person. And you and I, talented individuals, fine. I can run around, the majority of people as far as like bandwidth, energy wise, like I could do a lot, but there's no way I'm going to do 5 or 10 or 20 or 100 million worth. There's just no chance. I have got to bring in other resources. And that's really what, in essence, what you're talking about there. So I love that perspective. I think it's so real for you, for me, for everybody listening today, because it's this constant thing, of giving things away, trusting people, making sure that it's done properly, like all of these things. I'm sure that the listeners are like, yeah, I felt that before, It's just tough. It's the real part of going, man, if I was doing it, then I know that I could have it to my standard. You just can't. You just can't. You got to draw the line. And to your point, the warrior to king transition is exactly what you're talking about, 100%.
Yeah. And like, it's the thing, you keep promoting yourself, within your business, delegate what you were doing and then step up to that next level. And that's my challenge. I mean, even like this morning, I had to run into the office and take care of, like some contracts and stuff. And on my way in there, I get a call from our superintendent saying that he's sick and he was supposed to go get a job, an hour and a half away from where I am right now, started this morning. And so it's like, well, thank God I got up early. And instead of what I had planned, which is going to be a cup of coffee and a run, and I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to, be ready for this. I'm going to be so like here. And I got back and I'm moving stuff around and like, dude, I was here 30 seconds before we clicked on, finally ready to go. But, that can happen at any time. Right now, I got 2 cell phones here that luckily are only, joke text right now going off, but if something goes on.
Nothing's burning.
Yeah. Everything right now is good. The dorks are sending weird stuff out to the group, and that's the only thing that I got to worry about.
It's funny in our roundtables every month in the mastermind group, we go a couple hours, and it's like it's an event. It's something that you put on the calendar, something that each person commits to the work on the business, not in the business. It is not a time to be worried about the things of your business. But it is funny, we take a couple of breaks, and so I always say, like, all right, time for your go put out all the fire break, because there are obviously certain people who have things more figured out than others. And I remember being in that place where it was like, like Lena, like I'm here with you, I promise, but I'm literally putting out an issue right now as we speak. And that's okay. Working through those things, acknowledging them is obviously step one, but then to put people, process, in place is something that we continue to do, like you just said. So let's switch over to the speed round. I want to come at you at a different angle. My first question in the speed round is, in this demolition, recycling, Blue Earth, I love the name, business, I want you to dwindle it down to one trackable metric. If you could only pick one, track forever and ever, what would
profit? And that's the only thing. I mean,
I love it.
That's like that's the only thing. It was actually a client of ours, smart businessman, entrepreneur, built his empire, hired us later on down the road to do a project for him. And he could tell the place that I was in. And one day we're sitting together and he's getting his project started. And he's like, just remember, business comes down to one simple thing. Profit is revenue minus expenses. And again, every time I get caught up and, we got to do this and we got to do that. The only thing that keeps the lights on, the only thing that keeps, everybody working, the only thing that makes payroll is profit. And so like, it's cheating. Like that's a total cheater answer, but like, that's the only thing. And if you're doing everything else to lead to that, like every one of our projects needs to be profitable. Yeah. We do stuff that takes a day. We do stuff that takes 6 months. I can't lose all my money from making, stuff that's easy to bid and make sense on the big jobs. And so it's that simple thing of making sure the project is profitable. So it comes down to like project management becomes a part of it. And there's a lot of KPIs that, lead to that. But my only metric right now is profit, because the stuff that gets you there isn't always measurable.
Yeah, 100%. Love the answer. Steve, what book would you recommend? You've kind of given a couple, maybe you go back to that, but area of opportunity here to recommend a book specifically for a six-figure business owner.
If they're not already doing it, it could be because we're in the thick of this right now, but our leadership team and I have spent the past year really digging into mostly the Jocko Willink leadership, starting with extreme ownership, getting into leadership strategies and tactics. And, you've got some other ones, and there's a lot of resources out there, but I think it's that discipline, that taking care of everything, that I'm going to make sure it gets done, that mindset.
Yep.
I think that makes a big difference. And, could be because those books are what came in to me as we made that shift from 6 to 7.
Yeah.
But I think that those concepts and leadership is what made the difference there. So I'd say at that level, I mean, my answer would be almost anything Jocko puts out is you're going to be able to get something from it. And you just look and it's like, oh my gosh, I wasn't in the military. My family was. I have a concept of it. We're a blue line law enforcement family. Like, I get that. I can relate to those guys. I grew up with those guys. But when you see how it relates to business, then you're just like, oh, maybe Sun Tzu was right with the art of war. Like, you can take all this stuff and you can still be a nice guy, but you're going to battle every day, and strategizing everything, even if it's not a conflict. Those lessons and what they can bring back from that and apply here, like, it has been a huge difference maker for us.
100%. Love it, love it, love it. Next question. What do you think about intentionally networking or masterminding with other entrepreneurs?
And I'm currently shifting my mindset on that. Could be from experience, but
Interesting.
I've been in some networking things where it is just a cattle call, and it's like, what are we doing here? And we're in some industry groups where, you've got, the golf outing or the poker tournament.
Sure.
And you sit down, but it was like, dude, it's 5:30. I know what time all these guys got up. Like, I'm not here to pitch you. And so I was really like, and maybe because I was in survival mode, I'm like, dude, nothing's going to come out of this right now. Like, I just can't put time into it. I got stuff to do right now. And as I see and as we've grown up and we're looking at, what can we do to expand what we do? I noticed how valuable the relationships are and how valuable it is when you have that trust and, when you recognize the name comes up on the caller ID and they know that they trust, they know that they trust you and you trust them. We built that. I think we can do more of that. But up until now, my experience has made me think it was kind of a waste of time. But I think if you can be in with the right group, and it's not just, no offense to all the insurance salesmen out there, like, you got a hard job, I know. But if you're going and it's just, you're looking for leads and handing out business cards and half the room is insurance salesmen, that's a tough room.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
that's not the place to be.
Yeah.
But I think being around the right people and guys that can help you do what you're doing, I'm looking for more of a circle, right now to surround myself with it, because the people that have come into it recently, it's like night and day. And then it's like you were saying, whoever we read, with this conversation, everybody's dealing with this stuff. So then you've got that tribe that, everybody knows those days where you're either in the trenches together or you're celebrating together, you're taking a break, so I think it's valuable but be deliberate instead of just, oh, that's going on, I'll go to that BNI group. And
exactly. Yeah.
There's
I mean, that's why I use the word intentional, right? And networking can be intentional. I loved how whether you realize it or not, you separated the two, which is great, because the BNI, the networking, there's a place. There's a place for that to get leads, to get business, to exchange one for the other, tick for tack. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And in fact, usually it's when you're in the six figures that it matters most, because that's what you need. You need more leads. You need more business. It's not until you have the higher perspective that you realize that really you weren't building for the lead. The reason why you ended up getting that is because you'd been coming to that BNI thing for 3 months and that guy trusted you, like what you just said. So you realize the relationship factor actually meant more than just being there, transacting, giving business cards, although that's cool. But what you're talking about as far as a relationship, it just matters more, but you don't see it until the actual exchange of transaction doesn't matter, where you've got enough resources now where I don't need to necessarily go to this one event. I'm speaking at an event next week. I don't need to go to that event and speak and okay, how many leads do we collect? Or how many new members do we have? Like, it's not like that. It's, I'm going to meet some people and something's going to come out of it. I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? But you kind of loosen off the gas like that, as you're saying, as you kind of grow up a little bit. I love how you said that. I kind of grew up a little bit. Last question. Are you ready, Steve?
Bring it.
If you could whisper in the younger Steve's ear, what would you tell him?
Wow. It's all going to be all right. Like it was never meant to be easy. It was never meant to be smooth. Do your best with it, but just don't beat yourself up the whole way. Like everything is going to be all right.
Yeah.
Cheapy up, like it'll all be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, then it's not the end. Like I'll greeting card myself to death.
Yeah.
If that's what I got to do.
Hey, don't worry. My editor will take it. We'll quote it.
Yeah. I can't take credit for that, but it's like, you just cut yourself a little slack. There's going to be hard days. Focus on what's important. Like I said, I started this a year after my daughter was born. It was so great in the home office for her to crawl into the room, while I'm in the middle of a call or hear a baby cry in the background. And I was just open with everybody. I'm like, oh, the boss is yelling at me. Like that's it. Like, but I've been able to, in the early days, like drive my daughter to preschool. I'm able to be a part of their activities. The important stuff in life is getting done.
Yeah.
And
good.
Be easy on yourself, but also like, during those hard days, that's when it feels like you and the business are the same thing. So like if the business is challenged and it's like, what am I? I'm a failure, all that. And then it's like, dude, you're separate. Like separate that entity and work on it from the outside, because you're not the same thing. And projects can go wrong. There can be challenges, but that doesn't mean that you're doesn't mean that you're challenged. You're going to face them, but it's like you're separate from that thing that is right now experiencing a challenge. You can work.
Such a good mindset. I haven't really ever heard it said like that, but so good. Just wanted to sit in that for a second. I want the listener to really pay attention to that. It's not giving yourself permission to slack. It's giving yourself permission to have perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's a really good way to put it. Like there's never like, oh, well, I'm okay. So, like we've got work to do and there's challenges here, but like, just remember it's going to be all right. Like the craziness and the hurry and the hustle and all that. Like at the end of the day, if you're not right inside, that's just going to come out in everything that you do. And when we go back to decision making and all that, every time I've made a bad decision, every time I've been like, well, this is going to be a challenge right now. We got to hit a deadline. And every time like you're tempted to cut a corner, it's like, no. Like this will pass. Do it right. Get it done. Face whatever. Like you take some shots, but be you at the end of the day. So yeah.
David Goggins says, I'm not going to die. Just keep going.
He will never die.
Not going to die.
Yeah. No, I don't see that guy going anywhere. And it's that, like,
well, yeah, for sure, ever, but in the moment, at least,
Dude, but he's a great one. Like if that guy can do what he did, I can do what's in front of me.
Yeah.
Like there's just too many people that have done great things that this thing is small in comparison. Just weather it, get through it. You're going to be all right. And just be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Since we real quick here, we're a little over time, but I think this is applicable. We started the conversation talking about elk hunting. I don't normally share a bunch of stories from me, but I'm going to tell a quick 30-second story. It's a couple of years ago. I shot a really nice bull in Wyoming, and we're 5 miles into the wilderness where there is no mechanical anything. And it takes us about 7.5 hours to get the meat about a third of a mile away from the carcass, because there's grizzly bears. And so we have to get it away and we have to hang it in a tree. So I shoot the animal at 1 p.m. At 8 p.m., it's hung in a tree. So that's 7 hours. And all 4 quarters, which are about 100 pounds each, I carried on my pack from the carcass a third of the mile away, walked back, carried the next one, walked back, carried the next one, while my dad and my other buddy were cutting, up the quarters. So I'd already at this point carried hundreds of pounds of meat at this, whatever that is, 2.7 miles or whatever the math is on that. And then it comes, we're 8 p.m. We're 3.5, 4 miles, whatever this is, from the cabin. And I carry my 40-pound pack and this 110-pound head and antlers on top of my pack out the 3 miles. And I didn't have to. I could have hung it in a tree. We could have come back next day with the horses. And I was like, no, I'm freaking carrying that sucker out. And it was like 3.5 miles, a couple hours later. And I just kept telling myself, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. Just take another step. Just get up here around the corner. Just make yourself up the hill. Get yourself down the hill. Just up around the corner here. Just take another step. You're not going to die. Just take your step, And fast forward, my dad's like, bro, I don't know what you were on, but man, am I proud of you. And it was just that moment, like that perspective that you said of like, it's all right. It's not ever like the steps, the weight. It wasn't meant to be just like peachy and wow, this is flowery and fun and like, I will never forget those moments. Yeah. They were hard moments, And so I just love your perspective. I love your mindset. You've given so much value here today. How can the listener find you, Steve? Whether they want to like talk business with you, they want to reach out. Maybe there's projects across the country that they need this recycling option. How can they?
So right now we're in Chicago and the surrounding state. Our website is BlueEarthDeconstruction.com. So it's the color blue, earth. So you got 2 E's in there. D like dog, E like Edward, construction.com. Instagram, Blue Earth Deconstruction. I think the same for Twitter. These past few months, we have been just too busy in the field. I got a ton of pictures that I still got to post up there and just do some drops on it.
Awesome.
I think I'm on LinkedIn, and if you shoot me a message and you're not just somebody trying to get me to buy your product, I will figure out how to get in touch with you there.
Yeah.
Phone numbers, websites, and contact forms, they're all on the website, and we're happy to help. We do a lot of cool stuff. We're consulting on a few different things where we're able to share some knowledge. And if we can't do the job ourselves, we can chip in and direct it. But electronically, that's how to get in touch with us.
Good.
And we're like, just with everything, we're happy to help.
Yeah, I love that. We'll put it in the show notes as well, all those ways of contact. And so that way the listeners can reach out, for actual help. That's what I love about what guests like you do, man. You just open yourself up. We've had stories of people reaching out and guests reach back out to me and like, hey, this was kind of cool, because that's really what a king mindset is it's more than just you, and it's taking the resources that you have and helping other people. I love it. So again, thank you for being here. Your valuable time. You've given such from your heart today. And we just thank you for being here. Blessings on your family, kiddos, your business, your team, all of that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.